Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi again. Okay, today we're going to read another one of these personal letters of Nichiren's to one of his followers after a visit from her husband. So this is going to be focused on women again. How interesting. In his day, for most of history, women have been relegated to property, possessions. They don't have much, what's the word I'm looking for? They're simply not very important in society other than for breeding and for keeping the home. And they have a function, but politically, they don't have much voice. And so consequently, they're generally not deeply respected. And so it's interesting that in Buddhism, and certainly through Nichiren, he spends a lot of time answering women's questions and supporting them, encouraging them. So this is a short letter that he sent back with someone who visited him and wants to encourage her. Now, I just did a short video on worship and deification and the difficulty of reading translations that have this kind of endemic vernacular for those kinds of words, which really don't belong in Buddhism because they're all religious-based or self-based, and they're not good translations. So be mindful as I read this. I think Nichiren gets looser when he writes these personal notes, using the vernacular of the day that is just part of the culture, but he tries to use it in a way that leads them toward their own enlightenment, their own gohanzon, right? Free of this kind of rhetoric, but it's still there, so don't let it mislead you. The title, The Gods, Same Birth and Same Name. He's labeling birth and name here as deifications only as an example of how they are all-encompassing in our samsaric human life, not because they are actual gods, all right? I hope you will read this letter over and over again together with Toshiro's wife. The sun breaks through the pitch-black dark. A woman's heart is compared to the pitch-black dark, and the Lotus Sutra is compared to the sun. The baby does not recognize its mother, but the mother never forgets her baby. Shakyamuni Buddha is compared to the mother, and the women are compared to the baby. Make sense? If two people long for each other, as a rule, they will never be parted. If one person yearns for the other, but the other yearns not, sometimes they will meet, and sometimes they will not. This is about resolve to your Buddha nature, right? If you're not resolved, you may attain your Buddhahood, you may not. You may miss the teachings altogether. The Buddha is like one who yearns, and women are like the ones who does not. If we yearn for the Buddha, how could Shakyamuni Buddha possibly fail to appear? So again, this is about how you practice. And when you chant to Gohanzen, as you've heard me say before, you should yearn for Buddha, your Buddha. Here he's saying Shakyamuni Buddha because he's considering who he's talking to. That these lay believers don't have the depth of scholarship that he himself has, and many of his learned priests do. But today, in our day and age, all of us have that knowledge available to us. Look at the internet. There's a lot of crud, yeah, but there's a lot of great information. There's a lot of people talking about it. You have to sift through all of that, so that's your courageous journey. But if you study enough, all of it, as we are constantly encouraged, your particular path, your truth path, will manifest. You will get there. But it takes determination, it takes resolve, right? The resolve, Nichiren would say at this point, is the same result of a mother's attachment to her child, right? How may you may call a stone a jewel, but that does not make it one. You may call a jewel a stone, but it remains a jewel. In our age, the doctrines of the Nembutsu and other schools that are based on the Buddha's provisional teachings are like the stones. People may say that the Nembutsu is equal to the Lotus Sutra, but that does not in fact make it so. And people may slander the Lotus Sutra, but that does not affect it any more than calling a jewel a stone affects the jewel. In the past, there was an evil ruler in China named Emperor Huizong. Having been led astray by Taoist priests, he destroyed Buddhist statues and sutras, and forced all the priests and nuns to return to secular life. And there was not one who refused to abandon their religious calling. Among them, however, a man called the Tripitaka master Fa Dao refused to be cowed by the imperial command. As a result, he was branded on the face and exiled to a region of the Yangtze River. I was born in an age when the rulers put their resolute mind in the Zen school, which is as erroneous as the doctrine of the Taoists, and I too, like Fa Dao, have met with great difficulties. Both of you were born as commoners and live in Kamakura, yet you believe in the Lotus Sutra without concern for the prying eyes of others or the danger it may pose to your lives. This is nothing short of extraordinary. Though I am only guessing, it is as if a jewel had been placed in muddy water and the water had become clear. It is as if one who taught something new by a wise person had believed his every word and thus grasped the truth. Could Shakyamuni Buddha and the Bodhisattva's universal worthy, medicine king, and constellation king flower be dwelling in your hearts? Surely this is what is meant in the passage of the Lotus Sutra that says that those in the land of Jambudvipa who believe in this sutra do so because of the power of Bodhisattva Universal Worthy. You see how Bodhisattva Universal Worthy isn't an actual person, but a conceptualization of an ichinen, a will, a force of determination. Women, for example, are like the wisteria, and men are like the pine. If the wisteria happens to be parted from the pine for even an instant, it never rises again. And yet, in such a turbulent world, and when you do not even have servants you can rely on, you have sent your husband here. This shows that your sincerity is deeper than even the earth, and the earthly gods must certainly realize it. It is loftier even than the sky, and the heavenly god Brahma and Shakra must also be aware of it. The Buddha taught that one, from the very moment of one's birth, is accompanied by two messengers, same birth and same name, who are sent by heaven and who follow one as closely as one's own shadow, never parting from one even for an instant. These two take turns ascending to heaven to report one's offenses and good deeds, but both great and small, without overlooking the slightest detail. Therefore, heaven too must know about this matter. How reassuring, how reassuring. So this is colorful talk, and he's being very supportive of these women, saying that their behavior is not unlike that of a mother, and he actually uses a personification of Shakyamuni Buddha as a mother. So obviously, all of these words can be confusing, but if you understand them through um, labeling ways of being, ways of perception, Bodhisattva Universal Worthy being an example of our ichinen, our will, our volition, our determination, right? And heaven being that that ether that we're in. Obviously, that ether is another word that we create for what? For this aura of mind that we have, right? That is our heaven, and it's our hell. It's our mental capacities, right? Our 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 visionary mind. So that's a nice brief little go show. It does point out the devices and the rhetoric of Buddhist teachings, and it's easy to get lost in all of those personages and words and terms. But if you understand that all of this is a mental exercise, right? So he's supporting her, he's congratulating her, he's giving her a pat on the back for being so courageous and wanting to pursue her Buddhahood, her Buddha nature. She's willing to separate from her husband for weeks at a time for him to go get advice on things while she holds down the fort, runs the household without her husband to protect her. Remember, she's in a very volatile position as a woman in this shogunate government times, right? So, Buddhist compassion. There it is. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you so much for participating, watching. Support if you can. Just stick it out with me here. Make comments, ask questions. Let's keep this Sangha growing. Thank you.